Hello, I'm Christian Fraser. Welcome to the programme. Moscow says it will continue to increase the pressure on Ukraine in order to achieve its war goals. It comes after a large-scale attack in Kyiv left at least 18 people dead and dozens more injured. Loud explosions shook the city in the early hours of the morning, with waves of drones and missiles spotted in the skies. The mayor of Kyiv, Vitaly Klitschko, says a 9-storey apartment block collapsed and several other residential buildings were damaged. These are live pictures from Kyiv. On Wednesday, President Zelensky cut short a visit to Ireland, citing intelligence reports that another such attack was in the works. We are told the death toll may rise. At least 86 people were injured, 70 of them hospitalised. Our correspondent Sarah Rainsford sent us this update from Kyiv.
This is the result of the latest large-scale Russian attack on Kyiv. This was a 9-storey block of flats, and that's all that's left of it. We've been told that several people are missing. The rescue teams are here. They believe that some people might be trapped under all of that concrete and rubble, so they're working really hard to try and find them. This is a residential neighbourhood. There are blocks of flats all around. There's a kindergarten here, and yet 2 Russian missiles slammed into this neighbourhood, causing massive destruction all around. Windows smashed and blown out. There is soot in the air everywhere, ash from the huge fire that was caused, and lots of people just stunned by what's happened here. Now, there was a warning that this attack was coming. President Zelensky said yesterday that there was intelligence that Russia was preparing another large-scale attack with its bomber planes and its missiles loaded. And so lots of people spent the night underground, on the metro or in shelters. But still, this was a very difficult and a deadly night. Many people killed, many people injured. Now, Russia is saying that this was a response to Ukraine increasing its drone attacks inside Russia itself, targeting oil refineries there. But the fact is that Russia has been doing this to Ukraine, killing civilians and hitting residential areas for more than 4 years now.
That's Sarah Rainsford. Yuri Sak is a former advisor to Ukraine's Minister of Defence. He spent the night in the Kyiv underground with thousands of others.
It was one of the largest, if not the largest, attacks carried out by Russia on Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. It was a combined missile and drone attack. So Russia has launched almost 500 drones. Many of those were jet drones, which means that they fly much faster, and that makes it more difficult for our air defense forces to intercept them and shoot them down. There was also 74 missiles launched at Ukraine. These included both cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and unfortunately 25 of these ballistic missiles have hit the targets. And of course, targets, as it always happens, are civilian apartment blocks, and that's why the number of casualties is so high, and that's why tomorrow, July the 3rd, is announced already as a day of mourning in Kyiv for the victims of those who were, killed by today's attack.
Let me show you the live shot of that area where Sarah was standing just a short time ago. You'll see the rescue team still on location. I will keep our eye on that. Let's speak to a resident of Kyiv, Irina Nemirovich. She is also part of a think tank in Ukraine, the Ukrainian Healthcare Centre. Thank you very much for being with us. Tell me where you were last night and what you were able to hear.
Well, I live in a downtown together with my husband and my 3-year-old son. And we don't go to the shelter because there's none nearby. So we hide in the hall of our apartment and we sleep on the floor during the whole night. Yesterday's attack started about 1 a.m., the missile attack, but the Shahed drones were flying from 8 p.m. So we had our dinner in the hall and we went to sleep in the hall because it's the safest place we can get.
Do you feel safe in the hall?
Lately, I don't, because for the past 2 months, Russians, they changed the type of attacks. Previously, they hit a lot of power plants, but now they're hitting the downtown, they're hitting the civilian blocks, and I can see from my window the buildings that were hit. Our car was hit months ago during the missile attack. So we feel that it's closer and it is not safe, but there's not much we can do.
No. The Kremlin put out a statement this morning saying that it had hit military, industrial and fuel and energy targets in response to Ukrainian attacks. Does that Does that sort of reflect what you've seen walking around Kyiv this morning?
Ukrainians were not the one to start this, so it's not fair to say that they are hitting in response because they were the first. They started the full-scale invasion, and the only thing we do is trying to protect ourselves. And lately, we see that there is not enough of air defense systems and the projectiles for those systems because more and more ballistic missiles are reaching the residential apartments.
Yeah, as you say, there's no excuse or justification for what's going on. But I just wonder about President Zelensky's warning, because he returned from Ireland on Wednesday night. They seem to have some intelligence as to another strike coming in. That intelligence seems to be improving. Does it make a difference to how people behave in the capital?
Well, a lot of people now choose to go to the underground, like to the metro stations, and to hide there if the metro station is nearby. People are getting to the shelters more and more because previously a lot of people were just in their apartments. So the behavior changes a little bit, but still there's not enough shelters, and even in Kyiv. And there's nothing we can do. Like I have a small kid and I need to walk like 10 minutes under the missiles just to reach to the shelter.
But I was just wondering, because I know he made a public statement on television about the risk of an attack overnight. Do people preemptively go to the shelters now?
Yes, a lot of people do if they have where to go and the underground is more crowded than previously. But for example, my colleague, her apartment was hit today too, and she was in the underground, and the underground station was hit as well. So a lot of people were got the damages from the attack in the underground.
But that must have such a detrimental effect on everyday life. If you're going to the shelters in the underground early in the evening, you can't cook dinner, you can't eat properly, you can't sleep properly. What is morale like in the city?
We're holding up, it's fifth year of the war and we're not giving up. In my family, a lot of men are serving in the army, my brother, my uncle, my sister's husband, and we choose to stay here. We choose not to give up our country. Of course, it's hard. Of course, it's hard to wake up and to go to take your child to the kindergarten, to cook some breakfast or something, but we will not give up and they will not make us to.
Is morale a little better this summer in mind of the news that is coming from the front? I mean, I know that there's much better technology now. There's deep strike missiles which go into Russia, which at least provides a deterrence and a retaliation. How is that affecting the mood of people in Ukraine?
We see a lot of the interceptors flying and stopping the Shaheds. We see the deep strike attacks. It's good to know that your army is developing, that we started exporting the technologies this week. Our prime minister allowed this. So we do understand that we become stronger. And Russia, who wanted to see Ukraine demilitarized, instead they are getting stronger Ukraine with the biggest army in the Europe and with the developed technologies. And of course, all this thanks to support of the UK and other European countries.
I'm going to Ankara next week for the NATO summit. I wonder what your message would be to European leaders after this attack.
We understand that Ukraine is currently fighting not only for ourselves, but we're fighting for the safe Europe. So please support us. Please come here to learn from us, because it's not only we are learning from European armies, but you can learn here. And I believe that only together we'll be able to stop this evil.
That resilience that you talk about, which the nation demonstrates on a daily basis, is reflected, I think, we all think on the outside, by President Zelensky. We're seeing pictures of him right now at the scene of this devastating attack on the apartment block. How do you feel about the president and the fact that he digs in spite of it all?
Well, we support our president, of course. He's the great leader. He showed that he will not give up on his country. So he's a strong leader and he's trying to make everything possible for Ukraine. We hope that there will be elections someday, that we'll be able to vote and we'll see if the population still supports him. But now, as we cannot do the safe election process, he is our president and we have to stay next to him as he's staying next to us.
I'm just going to. Do we have any sound on these pictures of President Zelensky? Let's just listen in. Stay with me if you would, Irina. Let's just listen in, see if we hear anything.
Sure.
Доброго дня. Був масований удар російським агресором. В принципі, я думаю, що ви більшість деталей знаєте. Всім хочу подякувати міністру, всім службам, які працювали, людям нашим. One second, a little bit after, just a second. 600 людей працювало, тому я вважаю, що це найголовніше. Безумовно, і команди всі робили все, щоб зберегти життя людей. Да, дійсно катастрофічна цифра, те, що зараз сказали хлопці. В Києві 131 так, зруйнована повністю або частково. Це дуже масово, напевно, одна з наймасовіших атак упродовж всієї війни.
Obviously talking his native language. We are listening across for the English. Just to remind you that there are 18 people who were killed overnight. Many of them died in this apartment block, the scene at which he's standing at right now. He's talking to the rescue workers. He flew home on Wednesday night from Ireland on the back of some evidence that he was given that another huge attack was coming in. And so maybe he will refer to the intelligence he was given, the state of that recovery operation across Kyiv today, and also, of course, his condemnation, which we expect to hear of the Kremlin for what is another attack on civilian infrastructure across the city. Let's just continue to listen in because I think he's soon to switch into English.
Знайшлися були живі, але ми розуміємо, що є відповідна кількість людей, яка досі не знає.
Пане президент, ви написали, що головне – це подальші внески в КІО, які нормалюють ліцензії на виробництво парків. Чи плануєте ви...
Irina, I don't know if you can hear some of the natural sound on this. I just wonder if you could maybe help us with what he was discussing there with the Ukrainian journalists.
Sure. At first, he was talking about the number of buildings that were hit and the number of the casualties that happened today during the night. And now they're talking about the license to manufacture the projectiles for the Patriot air defense systems, as this is the most crucial thing, the most important that's needed now to protect our civilian apartments in our cities.
How does it work in terms of the air defences in the city? Because you talked about the interceptors, but quite clearly, the statement from the defence minister today suggests there is a shortage of the air defences for ballistic missiles. Do you, when you drive
That's
around,
correct.
When you drive around the city, are you conscious of that?
Yeah, we do understand this. Okay, so mostly the attacks are happening during the night. So at that point of time, we don't drive around the city. We're staying either in our apartments or in the underground shelters. The Shaheds are mostly stopped by the interceptors produced in Ukraine. So this is local manufacturers, and this is we have enough of them. But the missiles, the cruise missiles, the ballistics, they can be stopped only by the air defense systems Patriot, and the license to manufacture the projectiles belongs to the USA, and they're the only ones who can do it. And we hope that we'll be able either to get the license to manufacture, as far as we understand from the president's comments, or more support through the plural system from our partner countries.
Yeah, and of course, as the peace negotiations falter and seemingly go nowhere, that becomes all the more critical. And he's talked in the last few weeks about stocking up on those sort of supplies ahead of the winter months. In fact, I was struck at the G7 just the other week that while he was talking optimistically about some of the advances the Ukrainians had made closer to the front, much of the talk was about preparing for another winter, which is extraordinary when you think that we're already past the length of World War I. Let's listen in again.
Всім треба рухатись швидко. Всім треба, вибачте, потім скажу знову, що Україна не дуже вдячна, але
everybody needs to be grateful. People say that Ukraine is not so grateful, but How can we
І
live
тому
under such
дуже
attacks
хотілося б,
all the
щоб всі
time?
пам'ятали, що відпустки відпустками, а треба зустрічатися,
Well, we are
допомагати
talking
Україні,
about some holidays, but
підтримувати
we
нас.
need to meet the
І
leaders.
ось
We
за
need
це
to be
будемо
meeting
безумовно вдячні.
with the leaders, and we are grateful for all the help that they get.
Покарати людей за те, що Україна зараз
Путін
вибиває логістику в Криму і вибиває бензин в усій Росії.
Путін
Is this the punishment from Russia for Crimea attacks and logistic attacks?
ось що відбувається.
Putin
Він
understands what is
чітко
going on.
розуміє, що
He really
може
understands
залякувати людей,
that he can frighten people
знищувати цивільне
and he can
населення,
kill civil
ударами
population
ракет, логістику,
with his missiles.
удари
All of these
цивільним
attacks
мешканням, по кіностудіям, по
on
школам,
houses,
університетам,
schools,
у нас є лікарні,
cinemas,
є
hospitals,
продовольчі магазини.
shops.
Хоче просто показати
He just
своєму
wants to
населенню, що Росія перемагає.
He wants to show his population that Russia is winning.
Ми всі
To
бачимо,
be
що у
frank,
них
we
є великі
understand
проблеми з
that they
логістикою,
have
вже
huge
проблеми
problems,
зі
huge
снарядами,
logistical problems,
проблеми з нафтою,
huge
проблеми
armor
з
problems, huge
бензином,
oil
дизелем.
problems, huge fuel problems.
Країна почала
country
імпортувати енергоносії.
starts to
Росія.
import
Це про
energy.
щось говорить.
Russia starts to import energy.
Успіх в Криму,
Our success
української
in
операції
Crimea
і зупинка їх,
is the result
фактична
of that.
зупинка їх на полі бою в Україні.
And also we are
Безумовно,
winning
не дає
on the
спокійно
battlefield here in
відповідати
Ukraine.
Путіну на
And we forced Putin to
і без того
give
лояльні питання.
any
Їх
replies to all of these difficult
йому дуже
questions.
складно відповідати, тому що
And it is hard for him to answer these
у них-
questions
у них великі проблеми.
because they do have very serious problems.
Путіна сісти і нормально говорити.
Can we speak with Russia on normal
Острів
terms?
Москва може тільки
Look.
змусити. Всі його розкази про те, що
Only
він знає
Moscow
Крим,
can decide
любить,
about
йому
it.
це потрібен. Це брехня, як і схід нашої держави,
All of
який
his
він,
talks
безумовно,
about
знає тільки
negotiating in
по
Moscow is
доповідям
just
його
rubbish.
офіцерів і його команди.
All of his lies are just for
Безумовно, він
his
не знає
high command,
нашої
for his
держави.
officers.
В більшості цих міст і сел, які тимчасово вони окупували,
In
він не
most of the
бував,
places that
як
they
і вся
have
інша
temporarily occupied,
свора. І тому
Russian
він
regime is very
бореться за
strict
те,
on
щоб
local
показати, що
population.
він перемагає. Йому треба продати своєму
And
суспільству
he
велику
needs to
перемогу.
show
Перемоги
that he is
немає.
winning,
Перемоги
but we
немає.
understand that these
Тому і
territories are only
починає
temporarily
залякувати
occupied.
такими ударами.
So
Ну,
he is
іншою
showing that he is winning by
риторикою,
such strikes like today's strikes.
Залякувати Україну. Але
So he is trying to
впевнений,
frighten
що
Ukrainians.
Хоча партнерам треба не розслаблятися.
Our
Треба
partners do
підтримувати
not need to
Україну,
relax.
тому що Треба боротися разом.
We have to fight together with our partners.
Путіну.
На G7.
Ми відкриті, ми готові зустрічати. Він
What
фізично
formats of
вийде.
the negotiations were proposed to Putin? We are open. We are ready to meet anywhere.
На вас найбільша відповідальність. Що ми, українці, можемо зробити для того, щоб підтримати вас, щоб ви залишались далі незламними, і щоб ви
What
залишились?
can the West do to help us, to help Ukraine to stay strong?
Що ви очікуєте від нас, українців? Як ми можемо підтримати
Я
вас?
вдячний.
But also, what do you expect from ordinary Ukrainians like us? Well, I am so grateful to everyone. I'm grateful to every single person in Ukraine, to our nation.
Допомагають людям, допомагають цивільним.
People are helping
Коли такі
people.
удари, ви ж бачите,
You can see these
всі
horrible
разом, всі
strikes. Who is
допомагають,
helping
хто
there?
чим може.
These are all the neighbors. Everybody's helping with whatever they can.
Єдність суспільства цивільного і армії.
Our society is
я вважаю,
so
що це
united.
задача номер один.
And this
Єдність
is the force
всередині
number
нашої
one that
держави.
keeps Ukraine strong. That's why we are a country.
Не буде нашої єдності.
If we wouldn't have our
Будуть
unity
продовжуватись ігри про ті чи інші
and all these games,
вибори, або
about
ще якісь речі.
election,
Все, що може бути направлено на розкол всередині
everything
суспільства,
would be
буде використовувати ті чи інші
targeting
сили.
us and
І,
trying to
безумовно,
split
буде
us.
використовувати Росію, і навіть не тільки
And this
Росія,
benefits
які
Russia.
зацікавлені, тиснути на Україну, вийти з Донбасу,
They are trying
здати
to
свою
force Ukraine
країну,
to leave
здати
Donbass,
ворогу.
to leave our
Тому що
territories.
ворогу потім і мотивації
Because
зайвої не треба.
enemy
Якщо ми вийдемо,
Wouldn't even need to, make any efforts to keep them. If we leave these territories, they will just keep it. But our position is to stay there.
Путінську армію, яка сьогодні, якщо чесно, втрачає і
And
мотивацію,
we're very strong against the
і
Putin's army.
настрій,
His army
і
is very
спроможність.
honestly quite weak
А
and losing
такі кроки
positions.
дадуть йому додаткову, безумовно, додаткову мотивацію армії йти далі. Тому
Such steps will give additional motivation for
наше
his army, like
суспільство,
strike
воно
today.
різне, але гучне, і треба використовувати гучність українського суспільства.
We
І за
need to
кордоном, і
keep
за
the voices of our
кордоном.
society
Не
loud.
треба
We need to keep
розслаблятися, треба
everyone informed. We don't need to
спілкуватись,
relax.
виходити
We
там на
need to be
площі,
united. We need to be
війни,
vocal.
підтримувати Україну,
We need to
нагадувати
ask
всім,
the world to
що ми
support
в
Ukraine.
боротьбі, і ми в боротьбі за захист всіх. Це не пафос.
That
Це не
we
те,
are
що ми
fighting not
просто,
just for Ukraine, we're
якісь політичні,
fighting to keep everybody
слова
safe. And
і
this is
мезаки
not just
про те,
loud
що ми
words.
захищаємо Європу. Це факт.
We are defending Europe. This is a fact.
Це те, що треба всім усвідомити.
This is what we need to realize, all of us and everybody as well.
Для Путіна.
And even
І
Putin
знати,
has to
що він
realize
це
it.
чітко розуміє. І
He
розуміє.
sort of knows it. Glory to
Ми
Ukraine,
хочемо
glory to the
подякувати вам
heroes.
за вашу незламність, за вашу позицію.
President
за те, що
Zelensky,
ви
who is reacting to the assault on Ukraine, which he does day after day. It is his job, of course, to rally the country and also the international response to things like this. It is another sober reminder, I think, of the role that he plays in all of this. He is castigated sometimes by the American administration, sometimes insulted by people in the White House, which is all the more remarkable after a night like the one Ukraine has just experienced. Our guest, Irina, was listening into that, who spent the night in her hall with her family, her son sleeping on the floor. Some of her family, Irina, I think, are fighting on the front line. Your reflections on what you've just heard from the president?
Well, he just repeated the things that we previously talked to you about, that we are defending not only the Ukraine, but the whole Europe. And we, of course, are grateful to our partner countries. And we understand that we have to fight together. We value your support, and it has to increase, because if you stop helping Ukraine, the war will move closer to your borders.
In terms of his resolve, does he, I mean, when you watch him and listen to him in these sorts of circumstances, there are moments where he seems to be, you know, it's quite natural to be overcome by the enormity of what he's facing day after day. Do you worry about his stamina and the way that he leads the country?
Well, we can see in his reaction that he is a human, you know. He can be emotional, he can be irritated, he can be really supportive to the people around, to those people who were hurt, whose apartments were damaged. And of course, he has a great stamina, because he's fighting the second biggest army in the world for the second year, and the Ukrainian people are fighting together with him.
Do you know where your family members are currently? And do you know their whereabouts?
Yes, I do know.
And how they are?
Yeah, my brother is closer to the north in the Kharkiv region. My uncle is in Donetsk, closer to Donetsk. To others, I cannot say, because they are in the secret service, so they have some secret operation they are supporting. We are in constant communication when it's possible. They have their rotation, they are able to come back to Kyiv and then go to the front line again. But of course, it's hard because they do not see their families. You know, my sister has 2 kids, and her husband is not seeing them because he's on the front line. My brother, he cannot start like the proper family because he's on the front line. So a lot of lives of a lot of people just went on pause, and it's quite hard.
Yeah. It's a whole family effort, and so many families like yours making those same sacrifices around Ukraine. Irina, thank you very much indeed for your time. Our thoughts with you and your family in these difficult times. Thank you for coming on the programme.
Thank you.
Just to update you on the death toll, it has risen, as I said it might, from 18 to 20. So 20 people killed in that overnight assault, but many, many more injured as well. We'll keep you across that. You're watching BBC News.